We were asked by Scottish Enterprise to take a 21st century look at the groundbreaking book by Dr. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written in the late 1980s. And the twist they wanted on it really was relevance to this century, but in the middle of a pandemic. Now, there were famous chapters in his book like Synergize, which we interpreted as bring in diversity, and Sharpening the Saw, the last chapter, which we saw as pressing the refresh button. The challenge, though, was to film all this during a pandemic. But what we were able to do was we filmed outside, we filmed in the snow, we brought in our own personal recollections, our own personal experiences, but we also collected a team of great experts. We had an Indian Scottish entrepreneur, Poonam Gupta, who had started with an idea which she'd taken to Scottish Enterprise, got some grant funding for that, and built this into a business turning over by that time almost £60 million a year. We spoke to Antarctic explorer Luke Robertson, who really gave us a fascinating insight on how to take an impossible goal of skiing over 700 kilometres to the Antarctic, the absolute South Pole, and he broke it down by envisaging the very end of that journey and working back a few metres, working back a night, working back another night, until he had the whole goal in reverse. Then he just flipped it and he had the goal in the right order, which was a fascinating insight. Somebody I'd worked very closely with in the Commonwealth Games of 2014 was now Dame Louise Martin. Now, Louise Martin, as she was then when I met her, was going to be the lead presenter in Glasgow's bid for the Commonwealth Games. So way back in 2007, I had helped her, the presentation team, everyone from Glasgow Council who was making the case across the Commonwealth to sharpen their presentation skills and to launch that bid, which was successful. Glasgow won the Commonwealth Games. And she told us this whole fascinating story of collaboration.
That the host for the 2014 Commonwealth Games will be Glasgow.
When we looked at all these interviews and asked people similar questions about the various aspects we wanted to cover, we had this rich material which we were able to put into a series of 8 programmes, a taster programme and 7 specific programmes on different subject matters in that time. And the combination we used was a live presentation by webinar. We then had a feature which had some of the best clips from the best interviewees. Then we're back in studio as such by webinar, and then we were into a mainstay interview, and that mainstay interview could last 12 minutes, for example. And it was a rich experience from one of these interviewees that was able to explain what their take was on that subject. The feedback from Scottish Enterprise was exceptional. Many described it as the best training they'd ever received, but to me what was really important was this came in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a period of transition when they were all working outside their office. They may at stages go back to their offices. Some will continue to work from home, but they were all going through transition. And what they found was this helped them to focus on areas where they could improve on the work they were doing and get a wider perspective on what they were doing as well. All based initially on ideas from Dr. Stephen Covey, and I'd interviewed him back in 2004. So we were able to use some of that audio interview with Dr. Covey and use it in each of the programs.
And you need to change your way of thinking about what really is important so that the focus is on helping every person to find his voice, his unique strength, and then to develop very complementary teams so that their weaknesses are made irrelevant.
When you've got the right ingredients and when you've got people who are presenting personal experiences, when you're interviewing people who've got rich lived experiences, I believe that's the perfect combination for training.